Gravel sliced her bare feet as Anna ran, each breath tearing like fire in her chest. The night was heavy with silence, broken only by the thundering chase behind her. Father Samuel said, "You cannot escape the truth." His voice slithered like smoke through the darkness. She dared not look back, though the shadows stretched long and cruel. Anna's heart pounded, every beat screaming her name louder than her own thoughts. The wooden fence loomed ahead, splinters catching moonlight like blades. Behind her, Caleb shouted, "Stop before it's too late." His words were jagged with both command and fear. Somewhere in the dark, little Grace whimpered, her innocence trapped within the walls. Anna fled. The night smelled of iron and dust, each inhalation searing her lungs. Anna whispered, "Not again, never again." Her legs trembled, but the terror drove her forward. The slammed gate echoed like a drumbeat of doom. The gravel faded, replaced by the pounding echo in Anna's head. She thought of the promises whispered by Father Samuel, words that once felt like salvation. He said, "We are family under the light." Yet chains hid behind those words. Caleb's shadow had long followed her every move, a reminder of the punishment that waited for straying hearts. Grace's small laughter once gave her comfort, but tonight it was swallowed by silence. Anna pressed her hand to the wood, splinters biting her skin, and whispered, "This is not family." The compound loomed like a prison behind her, walls breathing with memories of obedience. Each memory clawed at her lungs, suffocating with guilt. She remembered kneeling, chanting, begging forgiveness for thoughts she never had. The night air wrapped cold fingers around her throat, reminding her that freedom was not a gift, but something stolen. Anna had once believed Father Samuel's voice was sacred, that his words were carved in fire and truth. Tonight, each syllable echoed like a curse. He had called her daughter of light, but the truth was chains wrapped in devotion. Caleb's heavy steps were always near, his silence crueler than his commands. Grace had held Anna's hand once, whispering, "Do you believe him?" That memory stabbed sharper than the gravel beneath her feet. Anna felt her chest ache, her ribs a cage of breathless dread. She whispered, "I want to believe in more." The gate creaked in the distance, an omen of their grip tightening. Shadows lengthened as though the night itself belonged to them. The walls of doctrine pressed closer, suffocating every choice, every thought, until freedom itself felt like sin. The courtyard had once been a place of chants, laughter staged as devotion. Now it felt like a graveyard of echoes. Father Samuel's voice carried, "Return. Anna, the light forgives." Forgiveness meant lashes, long nights kneeling until skin bled. Caleb's silence roared louder than any words. Anna's breath broke, memories clawing. The prayers, the rituals, the endless gaze of eyes that judged her. Grace's face flickered in her mind, small and trusting, a reminder of innocence devoured. Anna said, "I will not return." The words were a spark against the suffocating dark. The night shuddered, as if it too recoiled from her defiance. Behind the fence, the world whispered of unknown paths, dangerous yet free. Every heartbeat was a war drum, demanding she break the cycle. The first scream was not her own, but it lived in her bones. Years of silent obedience cracked within her chest. Anna thought of nights she lay awake, Father Samuel's words circling like vultures. He said disobedience invites darkness. Yet it was his shadow that swallowed light. Caleb's hand once forced her down to kneel, his grip bruising, his silence like chains. Grace's sobs had echoed in the halls, teaching Anna that innocence was no shield. Now Anna's whisper, "Cut the night. Darkness is not mine to carry." The fence towered before her like a final test, its jagged surface daring her to climb. Behind her, voices rose like storm winds, doctrine turned into screams. Her heart thundered, not with prayer, but with rebellion, each beat a cry for freedom. Anna remembered the first time she stepped into the compound, her hands trembling with hope, not fear. Father Samuel's words wrapped around her like warm cloth. He said, "Here, the broken are healed." She had believed him. Caleb's eyes had followed her from the beginning, stern but seemingly protective, a guard that promised safety in exchange for loyalty. Grace's hand had found hers that night, a child's fragile trust anchoring her in unfamiliar darkness. The chants were soft then, voices rising like a choir promising peace. Anna whispered, "I only wanted to belong." Her breath caught as she recalled nights spent staring at the stars, thinking she had finally found family. But memory bled into pain. Each promise had turned to chains, each kindness a leash. Her chest ached, heavy with the truth that what she longed for most had been the very trap that held her captive. The compound smelled of smoke and damp earth, a constant reminder of isolation. Father Samuel would pace before the gathered saying, "The world outside is poison." Anna had listened with wide eyes, desperate to believe. Caleb enforced silence, his sharp gaze striking fear without words. Grace leaned against Anna during those sermons, her tiny voice once whispering, "It feels safe here." That whisper still haunted Anna, innocence wrapped in lies. Nights were filled with ritual chants, her voice echoing with the others, not out of faith but from fear of standing out. Anna thought, "I wanted love, not this." Her heart had sought family, yet she found herself drowning in obedience. The firelight had once seemed holy, but now she remembered its glow as the flicker of a cage. Anna's longing for family had been a wound since childhood, one she carried like a silent scar. Father Samuel's promises filled that wound with false light. He said, "You are chosen." The words sank deep, binding her tighter than ropes. Caleb's rigid loyalty became a constant shadow, his presence both shield and shackle. Grace had offered laughter, pure and untainted, reminding Anna of the innocence she wished to protect. Yet, every ritual stripped that innocence away. Anna whispered, "If I leave, will she forgive me?" The fire burned in her chest, not of devotion but of betrayal. Her memories carried both warmth and torment, tangled like vines around her heart. Each face in the compound blurred between family and jailer. The deeper she sought love, the tighter the walls closed in. Father Samuel had spoken of salvation, but Anna saw now it was dependence dressed as love. He said, "Your family abandoned you, but I will never." The words had pierced her heart when she was weakest. Caleb's presence pressed on her, his silence reminding her that obedience was survival. Grace's small laughter echoed again in memory, a sound so fragile it broke her chest. Anna whispered, "I stayed because I was afraid of being alone." The wooden walls had promised safety, but delivered a tomb. Every prayer became a plea, every chant a reminder that her voice was no longer her own. She had sought belonging, yet found her spirit buried under ritual and fear. Even now, with freedom at her fingertips, her heart still ached for the lie of family. Anna's voice shook as she remembered her first night of prayer, her knees raw from the stone floor. Father Samuel's hand had rested on her shoulder. He said, "Pain cleanses." The words were salt in her wound, yet she clung to them, desperate for meaning. Caleb had stood guard, a silent figure who watched every movement, his approval hidden behind cold eyes. Grace had knelt beside Anna, her tiny hands clasped too tightly, lips moving with chants she barely understood. Anna whispered, "I wanted love, not suffering." Her eyes burned with tears even as she obeyed, convinced disobedience meant eternal loss. The silence of those nights carved into her, deeper than any lash. Belonging had been her only dream, but the cost was her soul. The dawn broke gray, but inside the compound no light entered without Father Samuel's permission. He said, "Discipline keeps the soul pure." The words struck like chains, cold and unyielding. Anna knelt among others, knees pressed into rough stone, whispers of prayer cutting into silence. Caleb circled the room, boots heavy, eyes scanning for weakness. Anna's body trembled as memories of lashes flared across her back, punishment for daring to pause mid-chant. Grace's small voice echoed nearby, soft but strained as she repeated words too big for her years. Anna whispered, "This is not purity." Her heart pounded as the rules pressed harder, each one stripping away her breath. Every movement was watched, every word weighed. The suffocation was complete, a prison without bars. Yet, somewhere beneath obedience, rebellion stirred like a hidden ember. The rituals consumed every hour, drowning thought in repetition. Father Samuel's voice cut through the air. The unfaithful are swallowed by darkness. His eyes burned with false fire, locking on Anna's bent head. Caleb's shadow loomed, his silence a sharper blade than words. He watched each twitch, each breath, as though obedience could be measured in stillness. Grace's soft cough drew Anna's eyes, her small frame shaking as she tried to keep rhythm with chants. Anna whispered, "How much longer can this last?" Fear clawed at her throat, yet beneath it burned the quiet refusal to break completely. The weight of doctrine pressed down, smothering individuality. Even dreams had been claimed, rewritten by fear. The walls seemed to close in, not of wood or stone, but of unrelenting control. Punishment came like thunder, sudden and merciless. Father Samuel declared, "Pain cleanses weakness." Anna's heart raced as Caleb's hand clamped her arm, pulling her toward the center. The room fell silent, every breath waiting for her cries. Grace's wide eyes followed, trembling hands covering her mouth. Anna's body stiffened, memory bleeding into present, every scar reopening in her mind. Caleb's grip was iron, but it was his cold silence that burned more than flesh. Father Samuel's gaze was unwavering, his words heavy as stone. Anna whispered, "You will not break me." The chant resumed around her, voices droning like chains. She felt the weight of betrayal, the fear of rebellion crushed beneath ritual. Yet in the sharp edges of agony, her heart sparked with defiance, small but alive. The compound taught fear as scripture, each punishment a sermon in flesh. Father Samuel's voice rang, "Obedience brings light, disobedience brings ruin." Anna's body ached from bruises that never healed, her heart heavier than her wounds. Caleb's stare followed her even in silence, an ever-present reminder that rebellion had a price. Grace clung to her sleeve once, whispering, "Maybe they're right." The words sliced sharper than a blade, innocence turned into belief. Anna whispered, "No, they are wrong." Her whisper was swallowed by the chants echoing like chains. The walls pulsed with control, every heartbeat sensed to doctrine. The suffocation grew unbearable, pressing her down until she could hardly breathe. Yet beneath the weight, defiance pulsed faintly, fragile but unbroken. Silence had become a weapon sharper than whips. Father Samuel said, "The unfaithful are cast aside." His eyes locked on Anna, daring her to move, daring her to speak. Caleb's hand rested on his belt, a silent threat. Grace knelt close, whispering words of prayer, but Anna heard only the trembling in her voice. Her lungs burned as the air thickened, each chant pressing tighter on her chest. She whispered, "I am not yours." The thought rang like rebellion, though no one heard. The cult's grip was complete, its rules woven into breath and bone. But deep within, Anna's heart pounded with something greater than fear, a hunger for freedom. Each silent beat was louder than their chants, louder than their threats. The noose was tight, but it had not yet broken her. The night pressed heavy, yet the hall glowed with fire as Father Samuel revealed his truth. He said, "Your sacrifices feed my vision." Anna froze, her chest hollowing with dread. His voice, once honey, dripped venom. Caleb's stare did not waver, his silence complicit, his loyalty absolute. Grace's small hand tugged Anna's sleeve, whispering, "What does he mean?" The words splintered Anna's heart. She remembered the food withheld, the bruises justified as cleansing, and now she saw the greed beneath. Father Samuel's pockets filled while their stomachs emptied. Anna whispered, "It was never salvation." Her voice was nearly lost beneath the chanting, yet her heart thundered. The mask cracked, and what lay beneath was hunger, not holiness. The air thickened with betrayal, every breath suffocating as truth poisoned the last thread of trust. The hall echoed with chants, but Anna heard only the sound of her heart shattering. Father Samuel said, "Your offerings make the light stronger." His hand swept toward piles of food and coins collected from starving followers. Caleb's eyes scanned the crowd, ensuring obedience. Anna's fists clenched against her knees, splinters digging into her palms. Grace's whisper pierced her thoughts. Why do we give everything if we have nothing? Anna's breath broke, realizing the innocence stolen even from a child. The lie was laid bare, yet the crowd bowed deeper, fear pressing them to the floor. Anna whispered, "He is no savior." Her whisper was fire in her throat, unspoken rebellion searing her silence. The chains of ritual clinked louder, now revealed not as faith, but as shackles forged of greed. Betrayal cut deepest when it came from family. Emma's voice rose suddenly from the crowd, sharp with false devotion. Emma said, "Father Samuel, Anna doubts the light." Anna's blood froze, her cousin's words slicing like a knife. Caleb's gaze turned instantly, his body shifting with readiness to seize. Father Samuel's lips curled, not in anger, but satisfaction. Grace's gasp caught, her tiny voice breaking. "Why, Emma?" The room spun as Anna's breath hollowed. The betrayal burned worse than the punishments, a bond severed for the approval of a false prophet. Anna whispered, "Even blood can turn." Her eyes brimmed with tears she dared not shed. The chant swelled louder, drowning her pain in hollow praise. The world she thought was family crumbled, leaving only chains and treachery. The betrayal spread like fire through dry grass. Father Samuel said, "Even family must choose the light." His words cloaked cruelty and righteousness. Caleb advanced, boots echoing like drums of war, each step toward Anna a hammer of judgment. Emma's face twisted with conflict, yet her hand stayed raised. Grace's small cry echoed, "Don't take her!" But her voice was drowned by the roar of chants. Anna whispered, "You will not own me." Fear surged, but with it came defiance. She saw the cracks in their doctrine, saw the greed in Samuel's eyes, the silence in Caleb's. The mask was shattered, and beneath it lay nothing holy. The truth seared through her veins, a revelation that brought both terror and strength. The hall grew louder, the chants deafening, but Anna's thoughts cut clear through the noise. Father Samuel said, "The light demands sacrifice." His gaze locked on her as though she were prey. Caleb's shadow loomed, his silence colder than any verdict. Emma's eyes glistened, torn yet unyielding in betrayal. Grace clung tighter, voice trembling, "Please don't take her." Anna's chest rose, breath sharp as blades. She whispered, "If I must die, I will not die blind." The words remained buried in her throat, but her heart screamed them. The mask of salvation had shattered forever. The man they worshipped was no savior, but a vulture feeding on their devotion. The truth was her wound, but also her weapon. And for the first time, rebellion felt closer than fear. The hall pulsed with chants, each syllable like a chain clinking tighter around Anna's chest. Father Samuel said, "The light demands her surrender." His gaze fixed sharp as a blade. Caleb stepped forward, silent but heavy as thunder. Anna's body trembled, but her heart roared louder than fear. Grace cried out, "Don't take her!" Her small voice cracked, swallowed by the crowd's chanting. Emma's face wavered, torn between guilt and devotion, eyes shining with betrayal. Anna whispered, "I choose life." Her breath was jagged, but her voice did not break. The chant swelled louder, the torches flared higher, and the hall seemed to close in, suffocating every heartbeat. This was no longer prayer, it was war. Caleb's hand clamped Anna's shoulder, heavy as iron. Father Samuel said, "Punishment will save her soul." His tone was triumphant, as though suffering was his sermon. Anna's heart hammered, her lungs straining for air that refused to come. Grace screamed, "Stop!" but her small voice was drowned by chants. Emma looked away, her eyes wet with shame, but her silence sealing Anna's fate. Anna whispered, "Not this time." The words burned through her throat like fire. Her body surged with a strength carved from pain and years of obedience. She twisted beneath Caleb's grip, her torn dress catching against splinters of the floor. The hall erupted in gasps, the chant faltering as rebellion cracked through fear. The hall split open with noise as Anna tore free, stumbling but unbroken. Father Samuel roared, "Seize her!" His voice cracked with fury, the mask of holiness shattered. Caleb lunged, boots slamming against stone, eyes blazing with rage. Grace's cry echoed like a bell. "Run, Anna!" Emma covered her mouth, her betrayal painted across her trembling face. Anna's bloodied feet carried her across the floor, each step screaming defiance. Her breath burned her lungs, but she did not falter. She whispered, "I will not die here." The torches flared as the chants dissolved into chaos, the room no longer united, but fractured by rebellion. The wooden doors loomed ahead, freedom beyond them, but Father Samuel's voice thundered, "Leave, and you embrace death." His words struck like lightning, desperate to hold control. Caleb closed in, his shadow swallowing the ground between them. Grace's sobs shattered the air. "Please, Anna." Emma's torn whisper slipped out. "Forgive me," her voice breaking as if her soul cracked with it. Anna's chest heaved, her body screaming with exhaustion, but her spirit refused surrender. She whispered, "Better death than chains." The torches flickered violently, smoke rising thick, the hall crumbling into chaos. She hurled herself toward the doors, her defiance the first step into freedom. Anna's hands struck the wooden doors, splinters piercing her skin. Father Samuel screamed, "She will not escape." Caleb lunged, fury etched into every step. Grace cried out one last time, "Anna!" Emma's sobs broke into the air, her voice lost in guilt. Anna pushed, a wood groaning, the sound of resistance echoing like thunder. She whispered, "This is mine." The doors burst open, cold night air slamming into her lungs like salvation. Behind her, chants dissolved into screams, fury unraveling order. The darkness beyond was unknown, but it was hers. Her heartbeat thundered, not in prayer, but in freedom. For the first time, fear bent before her defiance. The night air cut sharp against Anna's skin, colder than she remembered freedom to be. Her chest burned as she staggered beyond the gates, the echo of chants still pounding in her ears. Father Samuel's voice lingered like poison, whispering, "You cannot outrun the light." Caleb's boots had thundered behind her, yet now only silence stretched. Grace's cries haunted her, faint and broken, a sound she could not forget. Emma's face flashed in memory, twisted by guilt yet chained by obedience. Anna whispered, "The doors opened, but the chains remain." Her bloodied hands trembled as she touched her chest, feeling ribs ache with each breath. The shadows of the compound stretched long in her mind, each scar burning as though freshly carved. The night was free, yet heavy with everything stolen. Anna walked through the field, each step leaving red marks where gravel and earth tore her skin. Freedom did not feel like salvation, it felt like exile. Father Samuel's sermons played in her head, words twisting into scars. Caleb's silence still pressed like a shadow at her back, even with miles between them. Grace's sobs were a wound that would never heal. Innocence lost behind the walls, Anna had escaped. Emma's betrayal stung like salt, her voice calling Anna out with devotion twisted into cruelty. Anna whispered, "I am free yet not whole." The stars above glimmered indifferent, too distant to comfort. Her breath trembled as she realized freedom carried a weight as suffocating as captivity. Survival meant carrying every voice, every chain, etched inside her soul. Silence wrapped itself around Anna, but it was not peace. It was the silence of absence, of chains echoing in memory. Father Samuel's words repeated, "Without me you are nothing." They crawled like snakes in her thoughts. Caleb's stare lived inside her, stern and unyielding, an iron weight she could not shake. Grace's small laugh flickered in memory, a ghost of innocence now smothered by doctrine. Emma's face haunted her, devotion warring with regret, cousin turned stranger. Anna whispered, "I will not be nothing." Her voice cracked against the night, fragile yet resolute. The world beyond stretched endless, but her heart remained inside the compound, bound by scars. Freedom was no cure. It was survival, raw, trembling, incomplete. Dawn crept across the horizon, painting the sky in muted gray. Anna's body ached, but her heart carried heavier wounds. Father Samuel's sermons echoed like curses, the memory of his voice refusing to fade. Caleb's grip lived in her flesh, bruises blooming where his hands once held her down. Grace's face flickered in her mind, the innocence she could not protect. Emma's betrayal cut sharper than any lash, a wound deeper than skin. Anna whispered, "They remain with me." She touched her arm, feeling the pulse of old pain beneath new scars. The world outside was quiet, yet every sound carried echoes of chains rattling. Freedom did not silence them. Freedom forced her to live with them. The sun rose higher, but warmth did not reach Anna's skin. Shadows of the compound stretched endlessly in her mind. Father Samuel's voice lingered, proud and cruel, a scar carved in memory. Caleb's silence became a phantom, haunting her every thought. Grace's laughter echoed faintly, a sound she longed to hear free of chains. Emma's betrayal was a wound that refused to close. Anna whispered, "Freedom is not peace." Her hands trembled as she touched her face, scars burning though unseen. The world stretched vast before her, yet every step carried the weight of all she had endured. She was alive, but survival was not an ending. It was the beginning of a life forever, marked by shadows. The morning light bled across the horizon, yet Anna's chest still heaved as though she ran. Father Samuel's voice lived in her skull, whispering, "You belong to me." Caleb's silence pressed like a phantom hand on her shoulder. Grace's sobs echoed in her memory, each cry a chain that followed her into freedom. Emma's broken face haunted her, guilt dripping like blood that would not stop. Anna whispered, "I am free, but never untouched." Her breath trembled, each inhale carrying the weight of years stolen. The compound was behind her, yet it stretched inside her ribs, carved into her heart. Survival was not release. Survival was a sentence she would carry until the last beat of her body. Anna walked further into the world beyond, but her steps carried no relief. Father Samuel's threats carved into her mind, each word replaying like a curse. Caleb's grip lingered in bruises that ached beneath her skin. Grace's small laugh returned in fragments, twisted by memory into something fragile and broken. Emma's voice echoed, "She doubts the light," the betrayal slicing deeper than any wound. Anna whispered, "The chains broke, but I still feel their weight." Her shoulders sagged beneath invisible burdens, her eyes burning against the rising sun. The silence outside was vast, yet filled with echoes of a life she could never outrun. The world stretched wide, but Anna felt smaller than ever. Father Samuel's shadow followed her like a curse, his voice murmuring in every rustle of wind. Caleb's silence became a phantom footstep behind her, a presence that never left. Grace's tearful plea replayed endlessly, "Don't take her," a child's cry forever etched in her soul. Emma's betrayal was a wound that reopened with every memory, cousin turned executioner by obedience. Anna whispered, "I still hear them chanting in my dreams." Her throat closed as the words left her, a confession to the emptiness of the field. Freedom felt endless, but so did the scars. Anna lay in the grass, her breath heavy, the sky stretching infinite above her. Father Samuel's words poisoned even silence, "Only the faithful are free." Caleb's face hovered in her memory, unyielding and cold. Grace's innocent smile, once a light, now haunted her as a reminder of what the cult would consume. Emma's trembling voice repeated in her ears, torn yet deadly in its betrayal. Anna whispered, "I escaped walls, not ghosts." Her chest heaved as tears stung her eyes. She realized freedom was not escape from them, but survival with their scars carved deep inside her. The wind carried silence, broken only by Anna's whisper. "Only two of us ever made it out." Her words froze in the air, sharp as glass. Father Samuel's sermons clawed at her memory. Caleb's stare cut into her soul. Grace's innocent face lingered, a ghost of what she could not save. Emma's betrayal lived as a scar that time could never erase. The compound's shadow stretched long behind her, but even in distance it followed. Anna's body stood in the field, but her spirit carried chains. Freedom was hers, yet peace would never be. The final truth was a wound. Survival does not erase the scars, it carries them.